Well, welcome to Family Hour. This is our continuing saga of the Qatsyr-Harvest. As I understand it, we have Leah and we have Kirk. We're not so sure about Kevin this evening. Well, he's there, sitting there in a very comfortable chair. I can see in front of the door, but we don't know if we have any audio with Kevin. So he might just be part of the audience this evening. But Kirk, you can hear us fine, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And Leah's here as well. All right, so we're going to commence where we left off the last time in Qatsyr-Harvest. This is the ongoing story of Yahweh's ultimate salvation, really, of his covenant family. This is the last chance to keep them out of the time of Jacob's troubles. It's a marvelous opportunity. We would encourage everyone who is interested in spending eternity with God to listen to what we have to say about how we can participate really in this harvest. And boy, I tell you what, the last few days, it is becoming overwhelmingly evident that we are not going to get anybody who is part of any religious or academic community to listen. Well, when I've been posting a number of rebuttals to Christianity, because I think it really is amongst the most important things we've learned thus far, is that there was no Jesus Christ. It's not that the story of the Christian New Testament has its flaws and is wrong in certain places. It is wrong from beginning to end. The whole thing is a farce. There was no Jesus Christ. And the myth of Jesus Christ was created by Paul in 52 CE, and it was all based upon him counterfeiting the actual Messiah and the Son of God, though David. It wasn't that he pulled this character out of thin air. He just simply robbed the actual Messiah and Son of God. And because that wasn't enough for him to create this new religion with him as the primary apostle, he then stole a little bit here and there from Dionysus, like the dying and resurrecting God thing, and actually being a god. So he took a little of Dionysus and blended it with Dode, and he came up with his caricature of Jesus Christ. You would think that being able to prove that, which we do, would be transformational for people around the world. And you'd think even more so if you could show that, and we do, that Dode, who is David, 700 years before he arrived, told us the exact day he was going to fulfill Chag Matzah, Pesach Matzah and Bekurim. He told us that he was going to be crucified in year 4000 Yah, which was on 33 C, and gave us the exact dates the Moed Mikri would be fulfilled. He told us exactly how crucifixion was going to kill almost 700 years before crucifixion even existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a feat. What a feat.
Yeah. Yeah. God called him his beloved son 3 times. He called him his Messiah 3 times for the 3 lives that he was going to live. I mean, these are really extraordinary kinds of testimony, and nobody wants to listen to God. And they don't want to pay any attention to the prophets, the Psalms, to the Torah, and they want to believe a demon-possessed numbskull and Paul. And you just go, or Akiba, who had his own false Messiah. And it is a bit flabbergasting, I guess, to know that here in the nick of time, we have arrived at the greatest discovery in human history. And yet, rather than accept it and celebrate it and be appreciative for it and benefit from it, what we have is people coming onto our Facebook site or on X and just being obnoxious and belligerent.
Because they love the lie.
Oh, my. And one person said, oh, yeah, you're trying to pronounce the tetrahamagon. You think that you're the first person that knows how to pronounce it.
Yep.
As if the 4 vowels are somehow obscure and not pronounceable
Mystical.
anyplace else in the text.
Yeah, they pretend like it's mystical.
Oh God. Well, it's flabbergasting. And, on our Facebook page, because what we're trying to do is draw people's attention to the book so they can read, or to the show so they can listen. The last thing you want to have to do is to write a special book just for each inquiry, so that I'm not here to debate the people that say, well, you can't pronounce God's name, or that's going to quote from the New Testament and say, well, they're like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. One person even said that Dode had nothing to do with David. It was some other mystical character whose name doesn't appear anywhere. And you're just going, die.
I'd pull out my hair if I had some.
Oh, and thus far, and almost 17,000 posts on X, there really isn't a single prolific poster with a following on X representing Israel that has said, you're right. I've checked out what you're saying about who Dode really is, and he is the Messiah. He is the former and returning king. He is our savior. He did say he was going to be here to fulfill Pesach Matzah Makonim. He did write about his crucifixion in first person. He is the person that was covered over and his identity stolen in the Christian New Testament. And it's just so profoundly important for us to know that at this time. And oh, by the way, thank you for letting us know that it's going to be Donald Trump in America that's going to betray us and award a Fakistanian state that makes Israel indefensible. That puts us in a much stronger position. And appreciate knowing that we're only 11 months away from the time of Jacob's troubles, and that the Qatsyr-Harvest is upcoming, so we can participate in it. I mean, not a single one.
Imagine how Yeshayah felt. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's exactly how.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's not really true, because there are on X and on Facebook. Well, on X, we have, I think, 5,600 friends and followers on X, and of those, it's probably 10% who are actively engaged in communicating and part of these programs and communicating one way or another in a positive way. And on X, of the 1,600 and change, it's probably 100 that communicate and are there to support what we are saying and doing. And so now there's some overlap between those two, but let's say there's 500 people all total that are very active in support of this. That's 500 more than Yeshayah experienced, isn't it, when the doors to heaven was open?
Yeah.
That's 498 more than Moshe experienced at the end of 40 years of trying to herd those malcontents across.
When you put it that way.
Yeah, he only had two. We've got, I think we're
ahead. We're ahead of the curve.
And truthfully, the preponderance of the people that are part of the covenant aren't engaged in social media. They, have read the books. They will occasionally communicate online, but they're just not social media kinds of people. Can't blame them. I wasn't either. Yahowah said, I want you to do this. I wouldn't be doing it. So they just are not inclined that way. And a lot of people are introverts. You got Rich over here hiding in the corner. He's got a camera. He's got a microphone. But you think he's going to turn it on? No.
It's on.
It's part of it is that people. Yeah, a lot of people have a high comfort level out of the spotlight. I mean, I can attest to that. I was happy being Yada anonymous.
I know.
Yeah, the only one we know for sure that is genuinely interested in being in the limelight.
It's Wookie.
Is this guy? Is this?
Oh,
There we go.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, we're gonna get you all untangled here.
There you go, Wook.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. No harm, no foul.
I wonder why it is that the message doesn't track with my people. And, I thought a lot about it over the last few days. And I think it has a lot to do with the message has never tracked well among Yisrael or Yahud.
Well,
And
if you mean by never, starting with the Exodus and really the first day of the Exodus and proceeding all the way to today as never after 3,450 plus years, then you'd be right. It would be never. I don't think Israel has ever had a relationship with Yahweh.
I don't either.
Wow.
Oh.
Here and there, a smattering of individuals. Other than that, as a nation,
Yeah.
no.
You look back and you say, all right, this covenant relationship started with Abraham, but he wasn't exactly a man of the highest character, and he didn't do a whole lot that would indicate that he was even capable of having a high quality relationship with Yahweh. He couldn't even treat his own wife well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure he was good to his son. He just wasn't the kind of guy you'd say, well, that is a really tight, loving relationship. You go to Moshe, and the relationship at times was very good. At times it was very bad. Aaron, it was almost always bad. Miriam, terrible.
Disaster.
And then you go forward to Yosheb and Nun, and it was okay, but not. They didn't do as much as they forgot to do, almost as much as they did, if not more. And you get to the point of the kings, and you look at the children of Israel. They want Saul to be their king. They want to be just like the Gentiles. That didn't work out very well for them. That was terrible. And then Dode takes over. This is God's choice, but the people didn't much care for Dode. I mean, he was a hero when he slayed the dragon, but then they allowed the king to chase after him. They, all but ran him away. And he finally becomes king. He wins some battles for them, takes over Jerusalem, takes the Temple Mount, builds the city of Dode. But then his own son rebels against him, and it's just one disappointment after another. The best relationship ever was with Dode, and it went straight downhill from there. A couple of kings here and there, a couple of moments here and there that they came back to Yahweh, but they were brief. So you would have to say since 1447 BCE, 3,400 and over 50 years ago, to today, maybe you've had 30 years all total, maybe 40 years of decent relationship. And so it's an ongoing struggle. During the Exodus itself, God even said, I can't deal with these people. He bailed on them. He then, even in the prophet Hosea, reminded them, I'm divorcing you. You are not my children anymore. And he had to say that, yes, there will be a time where I'll come back to you and we will have a relationship, but that's a long, long time from now. More than 2,000 years from now before we're going to have a relationship again. And, then he finally tells us that he's going to reaffirm his covenant relationship with Yisrael and Yehudim. And through Hosea, again, he says, you're going to be my people again, and I'll be your God. And so we know there is this reconciliation. God's been very clear about it, but it doesn't take place until the very last moment of the last day. So the relationship's going to be horrible. I just posted before the show began a clip from Bibi Netanyahu, where he was talking about the Lord is watching over and blessing Israel. And I said, well, if you mean
what he said,
Lord,
Yahweh said.
Yeah, if you mean in the Lord that you're talking about Satan, who Yahweh says is the Lord, then you could be right. But if you mean Yahweh, no. You don't. You rejected him. You deny his name. You replace his name. You got no idea who he is. And he said specifically, I'm sitting this one out. So he will, but he's not going to pay any attention to his people until his people return to him. And that is what we're here to prescribe through this upcoming harvest. Wookiee, in the worst way now, wants to get down after knocking over the microphone and getting caught up in my headset. He not only wants down, he has moved into the Wookiee wagon. He has a special house here that is a
little camper.
It's a camper. It's called it's Wookiee's Glamper. It's called the Rough Life is the license plate on it, but it's a full-on glamper. And Wookiee has just decided he was going to hang out there.
Everybody show.
Yeah, so everybody's got to have a place, right?
Yeah.
This is my timeout place. So as we return to the testimony that we were sharing regarding the Qatsyr-Harvest, because that's why we're here. We want to encourage people to listen, to be part of this harvest, to return to YAHOWAH so that you can enjoy what it means to be part of his family. And this is a really straightforward opportunity. God has made it clear that there are 5 conditions of the covenant. If you accept those 5 conditions and you attend his Moed Mikre, acknowledging his name and his son's role in fulfilling those first 3 Mikre that provide the benefits of the covenant, then you can spend eternity with him. You are made immortal, you're perfected, you are adopted, you're enriched, and you're empowered. But you have to know what the 5 conditions are of the covenant and accept them. And that's tough for a lot of people today, because 90+% of people today are, and have been for a long time, religious and political. And you can't be religious or political and be part of the covenant. And then you have to walk to YAHOWAH and allow him to perfect you. And the only way to do that is to correctly observe the Moed Mikre. And the one where you become perfect is the one that Jews don't even acknowledge. They don't celebrate. So you've got to get your act right and recognize the purpose of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, and how Pesach is just the first day of Matzah, and that Pesach is not a 7-day celebration. And Pesach has nothing to do with liberation. It has all to do with life. It is Matzah that is about liberation. And so it's just a complete restoration of the proper intent of those Moed Mikre. Then you go to the 3rd condition, which is to trust and rely on YAHOWAH. But how can you do that if you don't even know his name?
Or refuse to say his name.
Yeah, if you think that it's a mystery to pronounce the Tetragrammaton, and you can't fathom that, well, there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, 5 of them are vowels, and these 5 vowels, of those 5 vowels, 3 of those letters are in YAHOWAH's name, and they're amongst the most common letters throughout the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and there are thousands upon thousands of words that tell you how to pronounce them, and you're not smart enough to figure that out. But, oh my God, it's the Tetragrammaton. You can't pronounce that. You got to call him Hashem, because we have too much respect for his name to actually acknowledge his name. How's that possible?
He said it all the time.
Yeah, but how can you have respect for someone's name if you don't say it, if you don't acknowledge it?
You can't.
Wouldn't that be a disrespect for it?
Yes.
A negation of it.
Yeah. Are you familiar with what the 3rd statement that YAHOWAH etched in stone says?
Yeah. Don't mess with my name.
Yeah, don't mess with my name. That's paraphrased, but it's that anyone who negates the merit of his name cannot be saved. That there is no salvation for those, and no forgiveness for those who negate the merit of his name. And there's nothing that would negate it further than completely writing it out of his testimony in your lives and never saying it. That's about as extreme as it gets.
Yeah.
And of course, even you look at the 2nd statement that YAHOWAH etched in stone. Can you paraphrase that for us, Kirk?
That's one with. Is that the one? Let's see, where we don't making engraving objects.
Yeah, but it's just don't be religious. There's
Oh,
like
don't be really. Yeah, all the
about
stuff that goes with
about
it.
5 different ways that God says don't be religious.
Uh-huh.
No idols, no false symbols, no false
No
gods,
bowing down,
no religious arts, no bowing down, no entering places of worship. Don't be religious. It's every way he could possibly say don't be religious is the second statement, and yet they're religious. So, Leah, you need to have a talk with your people.
Yeah, I've tried.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what?
What?
I came to the same conclusion Moshe did. Kill me now.
Yeah, that's. There are times where it sounds tempting to say, "Okay, God, let's admit that this is impossible and let's move on." But that's God is convinced. In fact, He's seen the future, so somehow we prevail. But
I don't know how we shake the insolence, but somehow we do.
yeah, and the fact is that the attitude amongst Yehudim and Israelites towards God has actually worsened over time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's pretty hard to fathom since they were obnoxious during the Exodus. Now, I share all this because of the enormity of the problem it poses for Yahweh. There are 7 Moed Mikre, 4 beyond the 3 which have already been fulfilled. When Yahweh demonstrated the purpose of Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim at the inception of the Exodus, which he did, from the crucibles of religious and political oppression, and then he explained them later in his Torah and Kara invitations. It was with the anticipation that, well, they would pay attention to what he had said, and that, of course, he would honor his promises. Similarly, when Dowd fulfilled the first 3 invitations to be called out and meet, told us exactly when he was going to do so, told us precisely how he was going to do so in first-person accounts, well, then you would have thought that when he showed up in year 4000 Yah, 33 CE, that might have been somebody that noticed. And it was all to enable, because it is only based upon these, the fulfillment of Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim, that we are prepared to capitalize on the Shabuah harvest. So if you want to be part of the Shabuah harvest, the first thing you must do is to understand the intent of and reply favorably to the invitations that God has made to us regarding Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim, and Dowd's fulfillment of these dates. And for those who miss out and don't get their act together, pursuant to the relationship with God by Shavuot, which will be 22 May of next year, 2026, the last chance for one to become immortal in God's presence as part of these first 6,000 years is going to be on Towrah, 23 September 2033, year 6,000 Yah. And this is all being accomplished in the expectation of returning on Yom Kippurim to enjoy Sukkah with the covenant family. But here's the rub. If there isn't anyone who knows Yahweh's name, Dowd's role in the Mikre. I had one person wrote me today, said, I know who Jesus is. I know who Yeshua is. I know who Hashem is. I even know who Abraham is.
Oh.
But I don't know who Dowd is. Who's he?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that and not knowing Yahweh and corrupting Abraham's name. How do you get Father, which is the basis of Abraham, is merciful Father? How do you get merciful Father if it's an Av? I don't get it. Particularly when those first 2 letters, the first 2 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, they're pretty clear as to what they represent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can say Ava, but not Abba. Right. How did that work?
Hey, wow.
Oh, there we go. We have Kevin back.
We have a
I've been working. It was on my side. I've been working in the background. Don't worry.
Wow.
Well, don't touch another button.
Wow. Sir Short chiming in at the Sir Short
Yeah.
chiming in at the right time. The
Yeah.
behemoth of brevity. Yeah. Wow. Pretty soon we're going to have right above Leah. We'll have Rich, and we'll have a quartet. Well, I guess what's five?
Quintet.
A quintet.
Quintet.
Here we are. So we are now in a position we're trying to, as we say, we're preparing for what Yahowah wants to accomplish, and are in his dilemma. And it's really a tough spot that Yahowah's in, is that prior to us sharing his name, no one knew how to pronounce it. And it was obvious. It wasn't like it was difficult for us to figure it out. And it wasn't difficult for us to prove that this is the correct pronunciation either. And we've done so. But boy, is it difficult to get people to accept it. They have no interest, even though it's the greatest discovery in human history, of Dod's role in fulfilling the first three mikveh, or his role in fulfilling what will be the sixth, or how we'll be the king of the seventh. They have no understanding. I don't think there's 1 in a million people that understands the purpose of the Moedim.
It's worse than that. They don't want to know.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't think they have an interest in knowing. They are so wrapped up in their culture or their beliefs or their belligerence.
They're just insolent. That's my assessment.
They're what now?
They're just simply insolent.
Yeah, well, they're insolent, all right. That is true. They've been rebellious, cantankerous, unappreciative, obnoxious,
Arrogant.
for a very long time. And we're not saying this to try to besmirch Jews. We're saying this to awaken Jews.
Oh, no, this is a description. This is a fact. Every time I've witnessed to my people, I've been attacked ad hominem. It just degrades. You're not even a Jew. They question, oh, well, how do you know? And who's your rabbinical teacher? And it's just this circle, just this dog chasing its tail. And sometimes you just want to go and shoot it. It's doing nothing.
Well, Moshe,
and it's just suffering.
Moshe had a slightly different approach. He said, just shoot me.
Yeah.
Get me out of here.
Hit me out.
I just don't get it. Like they don't want to see it.
Yeah. And by the way, should you think that describing the Jews and their relationship with Yahowah, or lack thereof, in terms using obnoxious, belligerent, appalling,
Those are his words.
cantankerous. Yeah. The fact is, those are Yahweh's words.
Yes.
This is exactly how he describes you.
And
you should
also our
read the Torah.
experience with you.
And
I am Yahud. This is my experience with you. I don't get it.
Yeah. And so that is why we're here. That's why it's such a tough job, and we're going to stick with this job. But my guess is that we will become very much like Moshe and Dod became. After a while, you just can't take it anymore, and you go through the motions. You say,
Oh no, baby, I got thick skin.
You say, well, yeah, I've got thick skin too, but this is wearing. It's a tough audience when you give people the greatest valued, the most valuable possession in the universe, and you hand it to them on a silver platter, and you say, I want nothing from you. I don't even ask them like Trump. Trump said, I saved you, Ayatollah. How could you be so rude as not to thank President Trump for saving you? We don't even want any thanks. No acknowledgement necessary. We got no donate to us button. We're not running for public office. Our satisfaction will be to see you in eternity. So we're not asking for anything. We're just giving you the single greatest gift in the history of the universe, and you just as soon spit at us.
Here's something I know. Yahweh was a gift to Israel. We spit in his face. Dod was a gift to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
We spit in his face.
Yes, you did.
The man sitting over there named Yada,
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh calls him our gift.
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect's going to happen to you, sir? Well, we experience it every day. They spit in his face.
Yeah.
At least we're consistent.
Dode went so far that he came back for a second of 3 lives, allowed the beast of Rome to rip the skin off of his body and to nail him to a torture stake for the most excruciating form of death, to publicly fulfill Passover. And then he volunteered for his soul to carry our guilt into Sheol, to deposit it there, never to be seen again, all for our benefit. And there aren't not even 1,000 Yehud in all of history that have acknowledged what he has done. How much more rude could you be than that? I mean, that's even more rude and disrespectful than not acknowledging Yahweh's name.
I doubt there are even a few hundred.
In fact, I would say there is one thing worse than failing to acknowledge what Dode achieved by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim and the sacrifice he endured. There is one thing worse.
Calling him Hashem?
Nope. No, that's. I don't think God is as bothered by his people's failure to acknowledge his name and love and respect his name as he is by their failure to appreciate what Dode endured.
That's right.
For them. No, I think there's something. I think there's something far worse than ignoring what Dode has done.
Giving it away.
No,
Giving it away to someone else.
Well, that's by ignoring it.
Making up other religions.
That's close.
Being religious.
That's close.
Political?
Stumping the stars here.
Kirk, bail us out.
No.
Kirk, can you?
Being
I would say
political.
Dode.
Okay. How about Rich? What's the worst thing that Jews have ever done in this regard in terms of irritating God?
There's so
Boy,
many.
We've got them all stopped.
Negating his name.
No, that's
We're not getting
probably
paid for this show.
that's probably probably third. I mean, my guess is then there's not a lot of people that know the answer to this question, because you guys are well read and you've thought about it.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I've actually said this on a bunch of occasions. When Paul, as a rabbi, robbed Dode of everything and promoted a mythical caricature to replace everything Dode had done, to create a fraud that billions of people would believe in. And then when Rabbi Akiba doubled down and said, I'll do you better, I'll come up with another false Messiah to hide the truth about Dode. So they not only ignored him, they replaced him with frauds.
Yeah.
Buried him some more.
And I think that is the single greatest
Yeah, I
crime
get
in
it.
human history.
Yep, religion is not a victimless crime.
Yeah. But in this case, the religion of Judaism and Christianity are both based on not only denying what David has achieved, but replacing him with outright frauds.
And that's where we get who's Dode.
So there we go. This is why what we're offering is the single greatest discovery in human history, and it's the greatest crime ever committed.
Agreed.
So it's more than just reintroducing Yahweh's name. It's more than just recommunicating and reacquainting God's people with the reality that Dode fulfilled the first 3 Moed Mikre. It's more than just explaining how there are 5 conditions of the covenant and that the 5 benefits of the covenant fulfilled through the first 3 Mikre. It's more than just explaining when these things happened and when the next 2 harvests will occur and what will happen between them, as well as when Yahweh and Dode come back. It's more than just understanding the whole picture and how it fits together. Because there is a bigger problem than the lack of knowing Yahweh's name, even Dode's name, Dode's contributions, the conditions and the purpose of the Bereth covenant, the purpose and the intent here of the Moed Mikre and their timing, and God's overall plan. There's something that's far worse. Now, I don't think anyone's going to guess what I'm going to say here, but it's the single worst thing right now that is continuing to divide Yisrael and Yehudim from Yahowah.
Politics.
No, it's the single worst thing a person can suffer from.
Apathy.
A bad
Attitude.
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 A bad attitude.
That always is true.
The world has a bad attitude about God. Christians, Muslims, the practitioners of all forms of Judaism, especially the Haredim, secular Jews, Marxists, everyone. They all have a really crappy attitude about God.
Yes, because they all secretly blame God.
Well, no, they all secretly have false gods. Not secretly, they publicly have
Publicly
false gods.
have false.
Yeah, publicly have false gods, and
They secretly blame God.
and they condemn the real God on
Yeah.
behalf of their false gods. They have a crappy attitude. I mean, the reason that Yahowah burnt up the entire area around the encampment for the children of Israel and called them every derogatory name in the Hebrew language is because they had a crappy attitude when they were complaining about everything rather than goes right back to the saints. So Yahowah endured exactly what we're enduring, and it's important for Yehudim and Goyim to recognize this.
Yeah, we're professional complainers.
Yes, the problem during the Exodus was that the appropriate attitude was to say, Yahowah, thank you for freeing us from being slaves in Mitzrayim. Thank you for saving us from what was a genocidal situation and apartheid. We were being abused badly, and we were being murdered. Thank you for saving us. That you went way out of your way to free us from that, and we're grateful. And not only did you free us from us, you had the rank and file of the Mitzri, the Egyptians, give us gifts of everything from sheep to utensils to valuables and gold and foodstuffs and culinary items, and it was nice to send us off like that. And then when the Egyptian army came after us again, and we were facing the sea and on Nueva Beach, and boy, it looked really bleak, and we got kind of iffy about the whole thing. And you magnificently you parted the sea, and we were able to walk across. And wasn't that glorious? But not only was that glorious, but as we got to the other side, you released the waters again, and that regiment sent out from Pharaoh drowned, and we were safe on the other side. And then you provided us water when we got there, and we saw the brilliance of your presence on the top of the mountain, and we witnessed Moshe, our leader, go up there and come back, and he was just glowing. And then you shared these 10 statements with us, and you were kind enough to teach us a lesson as to how deadly religion is very early on, so we would understand, because we were obnoxious when we built that golden calf. We're sorry we did that, but you didn't give up on the rest of us, and here we are. And boy, what a thrill it was when you came down off that mountain and stood beside Moshe and said, "Here's my guy," and your beautiful light and your booming voice, and here you were speaking to us. You taught us all about the covenant and our past, and about Father Abraham and Jacob and Yishak, and told us the creation story and the story of the flood. What marvelous insights you've shared with us, and we are so lucky and fortunate that you cared for us in this way. And now we know you're taking us to the promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and that we're going to be your children, and you are our God, and we are the most blessed people on the earth. Thank you, Yahowah. I don't read that anywhere.
Okay.
No.
So there's one time where Israel has the right attitude. And that is the Song of the Sea.
Well, yeah.
After that,
Well, there was a moment. It was a moment. They had a really lousy attitude on one side on Nueva Beach, and said, you took us out here to die. We might as well just go back. They're all going to kill us. What a stupid move this was. And when they got to the other side, there was the Song of the Sea, and that was beautiful. It was. I don't know if it lasted 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but it's a lovely song.
Yeah.
Clearly, it didn't stick because on the men's side, it was Moshe leading them, and he had a meltdown and quit. And on the women's side, it was Miriam, and she went full McGillicuddy. I mean, she went and went rebellious.
She went full leprosy.
But it's a good point, Leah. There was 15 minutes there.
Yeah.
So I stand corrected.
A very brief
moment. I stand corrected. It's 15 minutes. This is your 15 minutes of bliss.
15 minutes of fame. Yep, right there.
But there wasn't that attitude. And there's never been that attitude. And that's the problem that Jews have today. They don't have that attitude. Their attitude stinks. They rather rely on the IDF. They want to praise the IDF for their great suicidal mission into Iran, or the absolute failures on 10/7 and then making a bad situation in Gaza worse.
Oh, yes. And if you tell them any difference, you're obviously anti-Semitic. Let me tell you something. Their attitude stinks to high heaven.
Well,
it's horrible.
That's why YAHOWAH said, I'm fumigating the joint and I'm leaving here. It's pretty simple, Israel. We're not trying to rag on you.
We love you.
Yes, we love you. YAHOWAH loves you. We want to get your attention because, unfortunately, even though, we're doing our best to love you and we're devoted to you, is probably a better term. We're devoted to you. You really are making yourself unlovable right now. And you have for a long time. So while Father and Son explained what was going to occur 7 to 14 centuries before any of it actually transpired, since Yisrael was lost and Yehudim weren't listening, there would be no beneficiaries. And there isn't much point in harvesting an empty field or attending a family reunion without a family. And even with all of the naysayers out there, bottom line, if YAHOWAH didn't approach me 24 years ago and we start this collaboration, no one would know his name. No one would know that there was no Jesus. No one would know that that star of Dode is complete farce and it's tied to a false Messiah, and that the very conception of rabbinic Judaism was a man who lied about a false Messiah and created this hellish legacy of Palestine. And because of the diaspora, put Jews in shuttles and brought on the Holocaust. That's the founder of Judaism. They wouldn't know that Paul was a complete fraud, that the Christian New Testament is a farce from beginning to end. They wouldn't know that the Talmud is not Torah and it has no correlation whatsoever to YAHOWAH. They would not know that the Son of God and the Messiah, our former and returning King, is Dode. They would not know that it is Dode who is our Savior and fulfilled Pesach Matzah Makodim. They wouldn't even know that it occurred in 33 CE or what the implications were for 2033, 40 Yobel thereafter. There wouldn't be a single person who would avail themselves of the Shabbat-Harvest or of the Towrah Harvest. Not one person on earth. And if there's no one to do those things, there wouldn't be a remnant of Yisrael, nor even a red heifer to perfect them. And so there would be no homecoming because there'd be no one to come home to. And that's why in the last line of the last prophet, Malachi, YAHOWAH says, if it wasn't for this witness, I would come and destroy the earth. So there's a lot at stake. And beyond the salvation, really, of planet Earth and of life on it as we know it, there's something that should matter to all of you even more. Your own soul.
Yeah.
There's no way to prolong the existence of your soul apart from this message we're delivering from YAHOWAH. The best you can hope for, if you do not embrace YAHOWAH's name, Dode as your Messiah and King and Savior, understand the Bereth and the Mikre. The best you can hope for is for your soul to be extinguished at the end of your mortal life. That's the best you can hope for. And if you are engaged actively in politics, engaged actively in religion,
Bye-bye.
yeah, and if you're one of those that wants to come on the Facebook site of the one conveying this message and besmirch it, then it's you're not going to have the that situation where your soul ceases to exist.
Or
Is it-
those who say, I too
I
can
too
speak
God.
for God.
Yeah, you're going to go to Sheol.
Yeah.
You're going to go to Sheol, a place of eternal separation, because there has to be a consequence for those things. So, Father and Son have done their best to explain what's going to happen. But without anyone listening, there is an empty field. There is a reunion without a family. And even worse, with the chosen people having chosen to go it alone, well, they're not faring very well. You know, if that war with Iran hadn't been ended when it was, I'm not sure that Israel would have survived 2 more months.
No way.
No. I mean,
Not a
some people
chance.
don't.
And, you know, this notion that Israel accomplished something by postponing Iran's nuclear program, nothing can be further from the truth. They assured it.
I understand.
And there were so many negative consequences of what happened as a result of that it's almost unfathomable that the Jews are pounding their chest and thinking that they prevailed. But it is what it is, as they say. And you know, they're still proud of the pictures that they have of blowing up things in Gaza and saying, there you go, this is what victory looks like. No, it's what suicide looks like.
It's what destruction looks like.
You know,
You cannot fight an ideology with bullets and bombs.
can't.
You know, the first time you said that, I was so struck by it that I literally stood up and it just let it wash over me. It is absolute truth.
Yeah.
You can throw whatever you want at it. It won't matter.
Correct.
You have to fight religion's ideology
Right. With words.
with words.
Yep, you have to wield words wisely if you're going to defeat a religious foe, and the foe that has battled Israel for the past 1,400 years, even before there was a nation of it. Well, not before there was a nation of Israel, but before it was reformed, reconstituted, but has sought to annihilate Jews, is Islam. And until you recognize that your enemy is Islam and learn how to fight a religion, wielding words intelligently, you're going to continue to lose. And you know, I've posted, I'm getting a lot of flack for it, but I posted pictures of the destruction of Gaza. And I said that because of the asymmetrical difference and the number of Jews that were tortured and killed on October 7th, which Israel did a miserable job of communicating what actually happened. Like I was asked today, how many children were born or burned alive? And the answer is, I don't know. No one knows. Actually, no one knows.
True.
The scholastic studies, the journalistic studies, the IDF studies have come up with 0. There's been independent studies where just individuals have culled together all of the pictures and all the images, and some of them will say, you know, up to 8 or 10 were burnt. We don't know how many were burnt alive. We just don't know. And the fact that we don't know is the ultimate shame, because if you wanted to be able to justify a harsh response, then what you had to do is to justify it, and they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. It did a miserable job of conveying the extent of the carnage. And when you deal with 1,200 dead, and many of those, by the way, were killed in friendly fire, which, you know, happens a lot in chaotic situations like this. Most of them died and were abducted because the IDF utterly failed on the state, which is a criminal. for that to have happened. But when you look at those and the ones that were abducted, take 1,500 people. But not only was that almost 2 years ago now, not only was it never properly conveyed by Israel. There's some videos that came out late, but they show a fraction of 1% of what occurred. Israel has completely destroyed the community and homes of what was 2.2 million people. Have no place to live. Now, was it justified? Yes. Based upon the savagery of what happened? Yes. Was it right? Absolutely not. And the ensuing war, I understand that Israel's tried to be careful, but at the very least, 30, 40, 50,000 people have died. You can't kill 50,000 people, even if you're trying to be careful, to avenge the deaths of 1,200. When you do those kinds of things and you gloat about it, the world's going to get pissed off, and it is. You might as well just have shot yourself in the head. It's this is a situation where were you justified? Yes, based upon the carnage, based upon the fact that the Muslims in Gaza were all complicit, all of them. And so you were justified? Yes. Was it the right thing to do? Hell no. Was there a better choice? Absolutely. Which is why on the morning of 10/7 and throughout that rest of that week, I wrote the open letter to Israel and said, here's the 5 things you need to do.
No, you had a perfect solution.
Yeah, if you do these 5 things, you're going to get your hostages back. You're going to win the war against Islam. Your standing in the world is going to rise enormously. You will have no more foes that come after you. You'll be back in a relationship with your God. There will be no Fakistinians and no Fakistinian state carved out of your heart. You're not going to be sold out to the highest bidder, which in this case is Saudi Arabia. None of that's going to happen. And your fallen are going to be honored and esteemed, and their lives are going to matter. Here's the plan. Israel not only didn't do it, it did exactly what I foretold Israel was going to do, and it turned out exactly as I said it would, that you're going to invade Gaza, you're going to turn the world against you, and at the end, you're going to find out that by attacking a symptom as opposed to the root cause of the problem, Islam, you're going to manufacture 2 jihadists for every one you kill. And that's
here we are today.
And that's where you are today. And when I say it to you, I don't get, well, maybe 1 out of every 100 Jews will say you're right. But then they'll still say, so, and give me a quick synopsis, the nutshell version. What would you have done? No. That's like telling God, I don't have time for you, God. I mean, a busy life, busy schedule. The Torah, that's long. And, the prophets, that's just too much for me to have to process.
You're tedious.
Yeah, just too tedious. So I want the Cliff Notes version. In fact, I didn't want that. Just give me the 2 or 3 things I need to know and do, and make it short little sentences, because we're in the kind of the soundbite mode today. We're into texting. Well, again, if you post something on X and it's more than like 10 words long, no one's going to read it anyway. So convey what you need to convey, but you got 8 words. Imagine telling God that.
Mhm.
Well, as the master of brevity up there, you might be able to do it, Kevin. The joke is for us is that Kevin, I call him Sir Shorts, knighted him because he turns these longer programs into 2 to 15-minute short programs with a narrative underneath them and lots of effects, and makes me actually look pretty intelligent, which is a miracle in itself. But he creates these short versions of this program, so I call him Sir Shorts, and he refers to himself as the Bashama of the Bashar's brevity, and so the BBB is what we're witnessing up there. And you did a very nice illustration of him, Kirk. I appreciate that you captured him. I thought the one that you did of me probably was the most insightful I've ever seen. You know, somebody, and you can see it on the site if you're interested. It may not mean anything to anybody but me, but you know, I can look at that picture and see the foreground, the background, the eyes, the expression, and it just speaks to me. It tells me this is who we are. This is the job. This is where we've come from. It's very introspective. It's somebody who is steely-eyed and committed, but deeply engrossed in thought, that wants to be very careful of what he says next, and knows the weight of the mission that he's been asked to participate in. That's the way that I see that illustration. And I think sometimes in an illustration, you can convey far more than you can in real life or a picture.
Perhaps. I always thought that way.
Yeah. It's in this case, you conveyed more than a picture could by a considerable margin.
Well,
So-
I always said,
Yeah, you do. I mean, it's apparent that you could not have drawn that without knowing the subject. It is, in fact, if there was a single thought, it would be contemplative and serious. Someone who is seriously devoted to the mission, exceedingly thoughtful about it, is very content and comfortable with who he is and his relationship with Yahowah in the process, but also absolutely cognizant of the enormity of the challenge. That's the expression that I see when I look at that. Was any of that something you tried to convey?
actually, all of the above.
Yeah, I thought so. It just doesn't happen by
I'll
accident.
send it to you soon too. You can.
A picture's worth 1,000 words. It's the only way Kurt can keep up with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't type fast enough.
Yeah. This was an illustration as opposed to a picture, which is what makes it so much more revealing by somebody that we've come to know each other very well over the last 18 years.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're trying to prevent the depopulation of the planet such that the Moed Mikre can be fulfilled and that Yahowah is pleased with the harvest. We do have the confidence to know that Yahowah is actually reported in our past about our future and says that we prevail. We don't, we know that his standard is not quantity, but quality. So we prevail to his standard. And we would love to prevail in both quality and quantity. And we are welcoming all who would like to listen. But, I think you need to know a couple of things. One, God's not going to dumb it down for you, nor am I. Yeah, to quote my good friend, Captain Kirk, if you want to be a part of the covenant, you've got to have the want to.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yep. The second thing is, so after the fact, we're not going to dumb it down to you. We're not going to change the rules for you. God has his rules. It's his home. And he has house rules, and you'll either accept those rules or not. But you're not going to get him to change any of them. Number 3, your opinion may mean a whole lot to you, but it doesn't mean diddly squat to us or to God. So
Nope.
you can just keep it to yourself. Somebody wrote, well, I think we all make ourselves into the gods we imagine. And,
What?
I know
I
somebody
know.
like that.
Yeah.
No, we make gods of our own imaginations.
We
That
do.
is true.
Yeah.
But
We become the gods of our imagination. I just,
Okay,
I
pal.
don't care. I do not care. I do not care what your opinion is. I really don't. And
it's irrelevant.
I don't want to be rude, but I'm not interested. I'm not going to debate you about it. And if you have something you want a different point, no, we're not going to go there. And number 5, if you're looking for special instruction because you're special, and that you're not willing to come to the knowledge of Yahweh, the Berith covenant, the Mikre invitations, Dode, his beloved son, our Messiah and King, the way we all did, which is by reading Yahweh's testimony, studying his words, contemplating their intent, and going from ignorance to knowing, and then from knowing to understanding, and then from understanding to responding. If that process isn't good for you and you need your own special tutor that stops whatever else they're doing and just gives you your own private tutoring, it ain't going to happen. I don't even care if you're Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Vladimir Putin, all rolled into one. Maybe a little Z thrown in there too. Not going to happen. You're no more important or any less important than any of the rest of us. And there isn't a single one here that is here because they wrote and said, I don't have time for all those books. Can you just tell me what I need to know?
Can you give me the cliff notes?
Why don't you just answer these questions? Why don't you explain how you came to these conclusions for me right here? That's never happened. I don't think there's a place even where God says, I'm going to drop what I'm doing. Let's stop the narrative right here. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of what's entailed if you want to be part of the covenant family. Nope. It doesn't do it.
Not once.
Nope. You got to jump into the story at the beginning. It's a very good place to start. And then you need to make your way through the end, which is the best place to conclude. And that's going to get you from Bereshith to Malachi and no further. And even good news is for those who are like Kevin up there and you prefer brevity, there's some books you can throw out. You can throw out Job. You can throw out Jonah. You can throw out Esther. You can throw out Ecclesiastes. You can throw out the Song of Solomon. You can throw out the very long book of Ezekiel. They're all rubbish. They don't belong. So, hey, we've already done what a service we're providing. Although I think you'd actually be better off studying the book of Ezekiel along with us and reading those 2 volumes on Babel so that you could understand exactly who Satan is and how he works and what he's trying to achieve. Because if you read those books, even though they're false, based upon satanic wish lists and Satan's autobiography, you can learn a ton that's very helpful in life. So, I would actually encourage reading them.
No, you can learn how disgusting Satan is.
Yeah, or how he works.
Yeah, how he thinks, how he moves about in the world, what he thinks, what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
What it means to say Lord.
Yeah.
Know your enemy.
It's like that vision that has all the astronomical signs in it, astrological
Zodiac?
signs in it, I should say. The zodiac, astrological, zodiac signs in it. And then has the eyeballs and
very Babylonian.
It's Babylonian.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And the notion of all of the subservience that Ezekiel goes through and all the torment that he endures, it's satanic. It's very much like Islam in this regard. And then you move into the book, and there's 25 ways to kill a Jew. The spirit that pretends to be Yahweh in that book is fixated on killing Jews. There's 2 graphic.
Oh, and raping Jewish women. Too.
Graphic, yes. Rape scenes, pedophilic rape scenes. He's, the Lord of Ezekiel rapes 2 young women, and one of them with others that he gets very graphic about stallion proclivities. It's just really sick. It's deeply disturbed. And then he's got the Valley of the Dry Bones, which is a complete farce. But, he wants a physical resurrection because he wants to tantalize or torment humankind, just as does Allah and Islam. They're the same in this regard. And Then you go to his millennial temple, and the millennial temple is a monstrosity. The structure is so large, it paves over not only the entirety of Jerusalem, so there's nothing left in Jerusalem other than this. It covers up almost all of the territory of Yehudah, paves it all over. It's presented like a concentration camp. It's a horrible thing. And then he has his renditions of this Moed Mikre, and there's only one that he preserves, and he corrupts it miserably. And that's Pesach without matzah, which means that's an eternity in Sheol. So that's why he does it. And then he adds 3 feasts of his own. There's Do Nothing Day, which suits him perfectly. There's the worst of them, though, is the Feast of the Beast.
Oh, yeah, that's all about eating you.
And the Feast of the Beast, he didn't like me very much.
No.
So, yeah, do I have a bone to pick with him? Yeah. I mean, I don't like him either. So, it's mutual. But he gets to kill me in the end. That's why that's how the red heifer is finally sacrificed. It's Satan that kills him. Although Satan's going to really regret it because my wife is going to kick him in the shins. I mean, she's already planning all of the stuff she's going to do to him. And she can do whatever she wants after he kills me. And by the way, he's only bludgeoning my body, and my body at that point has no value to me anyway. So I'm happy to make the sacrifice. But and it's going to be his undoing once he does it, because then you got the remnant of Israel that are prepared to meet with Yahweh, and he's lost. And plus he has my wife going after him, and that's not going to be, he won't find that pleasant at all. She's relentless. But he actually celebrates eating my flesh and drinking my blood. And so that is the Feast of the Beast Day. Of course, there's also a new moon day too, because he would have to have a new moon day, being akin to Allah. So this book is just horrid, and the fact that it makes its way into Revelation proves that Revelation isn't true. The Gog and Magog war, totally untrue. The Battle of Armageddon, untrue. None of that's going to happen. You can just throw it all away. And so there's a lot you can learn. And Ezekiel, he actually takes us back into Eden, and he tells us that he was the cherub on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the reason he was able to garner Chawah's attention and to beguile her is that they knew each other.
He was already there.
He was already there. It's that he was one of the guards of the wall, keeping the rest of the humans at bay, and so they couldn't bother them in the garden. And so he was one of the cherubs, and he speaks of how beautiful he was and how unfair it was that someone as beautiful and handsome and powerful and brilliant was cast down, and how mean God was to do that.
He sounds like your typical narcissist.
Yeah, so it's really a fascinating study. So I would encourage folks to read it. And think about how much we've offered. The most comprehensive renunciation of Islam, so that Israel could actually protect themselves in an intelligent way. I mean, you can actually fight the Muslims that are trying to kill you intelligently with these 5 volumes. This is just volume 5 of 5. And then you can repudiate Christianity. This is 1 volume of 5, so that you can actually come to know that Dode was your Messiah and he is the Son of God. Then you have books like this, that this is volume 1 of 3 in an introduction to God. And it not only describes the source material and what are the oldest sources for the divine Yahweh's text, and how we came to possess them, and how many books we have from each cave, and then it goes in, Kirk, as you know, to the vocabulary. Actually goes into the alphabet itself, and explains the alphabet and what those letters each meant individually. Goes through Hebrew grammar and talks about the stems, the moods, the conjugations, and
the nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts of the whole thing. And then it has a marvelous chapter called Why You, Why Me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that you might know who you are and who I am and why we're having this conversation. And then,
Why? Yeah.
there's-
Who do you think you are?
yeah. And this series, Yada Yahowah series, there's 8 volumes here, and you're going to read the most interesting portrayal I think ever written on creation, that actually puts creation in the context of science and shows that every aspect of it, including the timing, is consistent with what we know scientifically. That 6 24-hour days happen to be equivalent to 14 to 15 billion years, based upon relativity and the fact that time moves more slowly in the proximity of great energy and matter. Now we even know that there were big bangs everywhere. Yeah, I was actually using the term big bang, but there were big bangs everywhere. So it was a uniform situation here.
Wow.
So it's just so much that these books provide. And, then there's a whole series on Dode and his Psalms called Coming Home. And then a whole series on going through the book of Yashayah, this textbook on how to perform as a choder and how to work with the choder and respond to the choder. And Yashayah, that's in the observation series. There's just nothing like this reservoir of knowledge that is being freely offered to you. Capitalize on it.
To Leia's point, you're a gift.
Yes, it is.
No, they'd rather argue about the tetragrammaton.
But then what you get back to is the bad attitude again.
Of course.
You can overcome in life almost anything,
Except that.
but a bad attitude. You just
That's
can't.
true.
And so you got to resolve the bad attitude, because with the chosen people, they have just not chosen God in return.
Sad.
If there's no one to save, God's not coming back. Now, fortunately, we know that there is going to be a marvelous series of events that are going to culminate with a productive Qatsyr-Harvest 11 months from now, with a fascinating time with the 2 witnesses, Yada and Elia, and the last 3.5 years of the 7-year time of Jacob's troubles appearing April 4th, 4/4 of 30. But we know that there's going to be a horrible jihadi terrorist war that's going to be so just horrendous and appalling for Israel. It's going to be worse than anything Israel has ever experienced, 1,000 times worse than 10/7. That's why we knew that the Iraqi war had to end, because Israel can't be destroyed in the next 3 months. It's going to be taken to the point of its last gasp in 99 months from now. And the war that is being brought against it, while there are many, many descriptions of drones and missiles, many descriptions of drones and missiles and rockets as part of that war, the principal belligerent isn't the missile, the drone, or the rocket. It's the terrorist. And the terrorists coming across and flooding the hills of Israel from the inside out, outside in, all around. So numerous, they cannot be counted. We're talking about in the millions. And so that's how the prophets describe the time of Jacob's troubles. And so that's why we knew that this war with Iran had to end, because it was in a completely different kind of battle, and its terminus date would be much too soon. So all we can say is, please take the time to read.
And drop the attitude.
Yeah, and drop the attitude. Take the time to read. And you've noticed when I was holding up these books, they're not lightweights. We're not dealing with Harry Potter here and 200 pages of typeface that you could read from a half a block away, and big wide margins. This is not that at all. This is what you've got, and this is 825 pages, and there's 35 of them. And if you were to spend 3 hours a night every night for the next year, you won't even, well, you only have 11 months left at the Qatsyr-Harvest. You won't even get through all of them. So you're running out of time. Now, you don't have to read all of them. I think that's what we're doing in these programs. You could listen to 20 or 30 of these programs, and I think you'd have a pretty good idea. And you could read a book here on the harvest. You could read the books on Islam so that you can protect yourself from it. You can read some of the books on Twistianity so that you're in a position to accept Dode. You can read some of the Coming Home, which are the most fun of all. It's just so joyous to be in Dode's company. Yeah, so uplifting. You could read those and be well on your way.
Just pick one and read.
Yeah.
Start there.
Right. Yeah. Leah, you and I met online, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was not a dating app, though, was it?
No.
Well, it was a dating. Well, it was kind of a dating app.
Y'all was dating her.
But it was because YAHOWAH wants his bride back, and so it was a dating app between YAHOWAH and Israel. But we met online because you were searching for an answer.
Yes, I was searching for the good woman. Yeah, I was searching for a good woman, and I didn't know who she was, and there had seemed to be a theme throughout Dode's Mizmor of the evil woman, the whore, and the good woman, and I wondered what that was all about.
And so you Google it.
Yeah.
And when
I
you
did.
Google it, because I have written more voluminously about most everything YAHOWAH had to say, I spoke of YAHOWAH's affinity for women. The
Yes.
fact that ruach happens to be a feminine noun, the word for spirit, that covenant is a feminine noun, the Hebrew word for the family relationship that YAHOWAH intends to form with us. Torah, his teaching and guidance is feminine. And so I explained, and then one of the most wonderful people in God's story happens to be Sarah. Ruth is delightful. You have an affinity for Ruth. We all love Deborah. And so I'd written a lot about these women.
When researching through rabbinical works, because of course I'm supposed to trust my people, right? They're sages. All I found was an extreme hatred of women, an erasure of women, a dehumanization of women. Shave your hair, put a wig on, and have a bunch of babies, and do everything your husband tells you.
When you were mocking the rabbis, I think it was your mother that said, maybe you need to have a meeting with the rabbis and see if you can get this resolved. And you did. You were a young teenager, right, at the time?
I was about 19.
You were how old?
Around 19.
19.
Yeah.
And that was when you went to meet with the rabbi to see if you could resolve your conflict with the rabbis in Judaism. And did he try to stimulate your mind?
No, he tried to stick his hand up my skirt.
There they are. We are here to answer questions. So when you Googled,
And I ran out of the room.
searching for answers as to who this woman was, the good woman, and the whore of Babylon. Even back then, this was 18 years ago.
No, more than that.
I don't think much more than 18 years ago. Could have been a little bit.
Yes.
I've only been at it for 24, so but let's say it was 18, 19 years ago, about as far back as Kirk. You go back about that far as well. At the time, I think I probably had done 5,000 radio shows, maybe a little more, and I had written probably 6 to 8 books.
Yeah.
And what was your first experience? So here you are. You're Jewish. You didn't know me from Adam.
No.
You were Googling to answer a question.
The only thing I knew or thought I knew was that perhaps Yahweh's name was Yahuwah with a U. I got that far, and the rest I had no clue. None whatsoever. I didn't know about the Moed Mikra. I knew that there was a problem with the name throughout the book. It's very clear. It's a pattern. Other than that, no, I did. But when I found your work, juxtaposing against what the rabbis had to say, and you also give the work. See, the rabbis don't do that. They just make their essays about mental masturbation, and they don't show their work. They don't tell you
Right.
what the word is that they're trying to interpretate. They give no reasons. You, on the other hand, were very transparent. You showed your work, the English, the Hebrew. So if I wanted to check, it was all there. I was able to do that. And that for me was, although it was difficult, it's coming from somebody outside the family, the tribe.
He's our goy.
Yeah, but yeah, he's our guy. But
Very good.
researching it and seeing for myself, very hands-on, that the translations are not correct. They're misleading, and purposefully misleading. I devoured your books. I started them, and they were very gripping. I couldn't put them down. I don't think I ate or slept or took showers until I was done with them. I'm a completist. I have to finish. So I devoured them.
And part
It's
of
the
that,
most riveting information. And it is so grounded in logic. It's devoid of religious garbage. It's not offensive to your senses because there's no manipulation in it.
yeah. So no religion in it, which was appealing to you.
Very.
And the fact that I was completely open. I put every card on face up on
Very
the
transparent.
table,
Yes.
totally transparent. And I said, I want you to verify these things for yourself. I'm going to give you the word that is in the text. I want you to look up this word, and I want you to look up every word initially to the point where you've looked up so many words, and every one of them is correctly translated here in these amplified translations. And after a while, you're going to get a confidence level that, if you've looked up 500 to 1,000 words and they were all accurately translated, even though those translations are so different than everyone else's, after a while, you're going to say, well, yeah, he's right. That's what you did, Kirk. You looked up every word.
Absolutely. All those
And-
shows.
Yeah, and I think it is people who I love to learn. And people who love to learn do tend to love Torah because there's so many connections to make within the Torah. It is an endless story. You could just dive right in and stay there.
And when you start reading these books, one of the things you quickly find is that we're learning together. And every time that I learn something, I'm immediately making the connections to share it. And there's great passion and enthusiasm with all of it.
Well, that's the one thing. Because I love to learn, I've been around a lot of teachers, and I know one thing quietly is if a teacher is not willing to be taught by a student, they're not a good teacher. And you're absolutely willing and open and encourage it. So there was that.
Now, you have to be a good student before you can be a good teacher.
Yep.
And to be a good teacher, I think you have to do the thing that is so uncommon today. Lots of scholars, for example, know a lot of things, but almost nobody today has the skill set that is required to understand.
Yeah.
Understanding is a very different situation than knowing. You have to make the proper connections. You have to look for common denominators, consistent threads, and then apply a bit of statistical analysis and probability and deduce conclusions from the evidence that are reasoned and thoughtful and consistent. And that's the skill set I think that these books bring that no one else has previously done, is that the goal isn't just to make the reader aware of what is true and what isn't true, but to take the reader one step further and to help them understand by making the connections to expand their comprehension. Because when you understand something, you own it. It's empowering, it's enriching, it's emboldening. Once you understand, you have total confidence.
Yeah, you own it.
Yeah. It is a wellspring of great power and influence. And nothing is more vital in our world, nor rare, than understanding. It's so sad about today's generation, because people don't exercise good judgment. If you can't exercise good judgment, and to become discerning and rational, then you can never go to understanding. You're going to be swallowed up in a sea of senseless opinions. That's why there's so many Marxist Muslims out there and Magites. They're just unable to perceive the idiocy of their positions.
And they tend to love those cults of one.
Yeah.
They love it.
So it's not just now that the material is scrubbed of the religious terminology and even the religious interpretations, because I remove all the Masorite diacritical markings and just go back to the original text and use the letters themselves. And we not only go back all the way to the Dead Sea Scrolls and correct the translations for the Dead Sea Scrolls, and not only provide an amplified translation, and not only provide the means to validate and verify all of this, and not only provide insights and understanding, but I think the single most important aspect of the whole thing is not even just the enthusiasm and the joy of learning. It's that the subject is the most important in the universe.
It was fascinating too.
Yeah. The subject happens to be God,
Right.
and how to live forever with him, and how to inherit the universe with him. You can't have a more important subject.
Never get tired of talking Torah, ever.
No, ever.
Never.
Or of getting to know YAHOWAH better, of enjoying what he's offering, appreciating what he's expecting in return, of knowing that by working alongside him and with him, we bring great joy to our Creator, and he's the first to appreciate it. He's really, exceedingly fun to be around and to work alongside, and so it's not just that this is a completely different way to present information. It's that when you're dealing with this kind of thing, this subject, the bold there, those are words that were conveyed by God himself to you so that you might know him, come to respect him, come to love him, come to appreciate his name, his son, answer his invitations to meet with him 7 times a year, and know why you're there, to value his covenant family as much as he does. And, this is what has brought all of us together. It's a celebration of our life with YAHOWAH, and we're here to offer it to you. Yeah. I mean, it's true that we do have fun when we're together.
Right.
This is an enjoyable time. And, for those of you who are on Facebook, for example, and I think there is a similar situation on X and on YouTube, but there is a community. And by the time this program is over, there'll be some 250 shared comments and insights and support from the covenant family that's a part of this. And so it is the ultimate family, the family of God. And,
Cool.
we have all, including God, gone through very difficult situations with other people and with family members. There's probably not even a fraction of 1% of families that aren't broken on multiple levels.
So true.
And YAHOWAH's had his family, the covenant family, broken on all possible levels for a very long time. He is an expert on fractured families. But when you're with YAHOWAH in the covenant, it's a perfect relationship. He's the perfect dad. You know, he doesn't want to be worshipped. Doesn't ask you to pray to him. Doesn't ask you to make any donations to him. Never asks you to get down on your knees. And he doesn't want you to lift him up in praise. No.
He doesn't want you to bob at a wall that Herod built.
No.
Oh,
He doesn't even ask you to believe him.
Prove it.
His interest is spending time together so that you get to know him. And then he wants to lift you up, to raise you, to protect you, to nourish you, to guide you, to teach you, to share marvelous moments together.
Yes, and if you're a Jewish woman, he wants to lift you up. He doesn't want to shave your head and put a wig on you and put a garbage all the way to your ankles. That's not your purpose as a woman.
No, God. It's one of the sad things about religion is that, and religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they want to put women in outfits that go from here, down to their ankle, and even worse in Islam, but in terrible in Judaism, a married woman has to shave her head, and certain outfits that she has to wear, and you go into a synagogue and they're separate. The women can't be around the men.
Not separate.
They're told
segregated.
Segregated. The women are told that they're not supposed to learn Torah. The rabbis mock them. It's in Christianity, Paul says husbands lord over. They own, they're masters of their wives. It's really a horrible connotation. In Islam, women have absolutely no rights. They have less rights than a domesticated animal has in a Western culture. An Orthodox Jew, man will begin every day and say, "Thank God I'm not a woman." Yahweh has a very different view. Yahweh actually thinks sexuality is a wonderful design. He came up with the design himself. He's quite pleased with it, and he never. Here's Dode, his favorite person. He had 8 wives and 10 concubines, and not once did Yahweh say, you'd have been better off with 16 rather than 18. Or never suggests that any of those who are close to him should have one person and one special person to death do you part. No. In fact, if your relationship's not happy, Yahweh has a really simple answer.
Write her a letter.
Write her a letter.
Write her a letter.
Yeah. No angst about all of this. And at no time does he say that a woman needs to be dressed modestly or from ankle to neck.
To the neck. Yeah, Adam and Chava, what were they wearing in the garden?
Not a thing.
Nada.
Nothing.
And
and they were what? Unashamed.
Yeah, that's correct. Because there is no shame in nudity or sexuality. God has no issue. This whole
religion,
frustration with fornication in Christianity, for example, or you stone a woman if she kisses a boy before she's becomes the man's slave. No, that is not the God of the Torah teaching. He wants us to enjoy life, to celebrate life. His issues on sexuality are don't do the lammy. Doing animals is really disgusting. Don't do that.
Don't rape a man.
Don't rape a man. Don't do rape. Period. Don't do incest. It's a pretty short list of things. Incest, pedophilia, rape, and bestiality. Don't do those things. Okay. Those are really bad things to do. That'll mess everybody up. Okay. But beyond that, and have any concerns, enjoy yourself. I want you to have fun in life. Life is about having fun. What did Yahweh name the first child of the covenant?
Evidence.
Laughter.
Yeah, laughter. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. If it's miserable, you're not doing it right. Yeah. The 2 people in Yahweh's name, are they down on their knees?
No.
No, No, they're
dancing.
standing up.
And
The only time
the
anyone
boy
is
Craig
bowing,
Winn was-
the only time people are bowing down before God is when they're being judged by him.
Yeah.
And if you're a part of his covenant family, you're not being judged by him. So you're
Yeah.
standing up next to him.
Can't find anything to judge him with.
Yeah, this, Paul's pray without ceasing, or Muhammad's, you got to moon God 5 times a day. The Muslims are now taking over Times Square, where they got, soon to have their own Marxist Muslim mayor.
Mhm.
And they want to intimidate everyone with them taking over public places because they want. It's not a prayer; it's a means to intimidate, to say we own this space.
Yeah.
That's God says, don't do that. I've never once asked you to bow down to me, and anytime somebody does, what's the first thing God says?
Stand up.
Stand up, get on your feet,
Get
come on.
upright.
Yeah. Every time that he's talking about let's go someplace, we're walking. Come on,
Yeah.
walk with me, walk to me.
Doesn't even
Walk
want you to
with
get down to get a drink of water. That was the test for the guys that were going to go with them. Remember, it's like,
That's right.
Anybody that walks into the water and drinks like a
Reach
dog, that's
down,
my
have
guy.
some.
Anybody that gets
Yeah.
down on their knees,
No, I'm not. Yeah. It's God wants people with a backbone to stand up. He designed us so we could be the only upright animal. That gives us our hands free to do things and an entirely different approach to life. And that's a huge lesson in all of that.
Yes, and it's really known that Jews are arrogant.
Yeah.
I'll just say it. I have arrogance about one thing. I will not bow to anyone.
No,
I
even
don't
to God.
I don't care who you are.
No, even to God. We don't bow to God.
No.
And I've been in high society circles. I won't do it.
Yeah. So how many times does God tell us we have to obey his commandments?
Never.
No, you don't. No obey. No word obey.
No obey. And the word that is rendered commandments actually means instructions.
Mhm.
And the
Right.
word that is rendered obey actually means listen.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
what does God say about the prayers of someone who doesn't celebrate the Torah, is not aware of the Torah?
He doesn't
Worthless.
hear him. Doesn't know him.
Yeah. It doesn't. Not only doesn't he hear them, he says that they appear to him as if they have dung on their
Oh,
faces.
dung on the face. Yes. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's pretty rude.
God
yeah.
wants to be dad. And I had a pretty mean dad, but I never did bow down to him. And he was a meanie. But loving fathers lift up their sons and daughters. They do not make them cower. And that's the way that God is. He's a loving father. He wants to lift us up. He wants to empower us. He wants to enrich our lives. And he realizes that everything that he has created in the universe is more enjoyable if he can share it.
And religion is exactly the opposite. It wants to oppress. It wants to control. It wants to demean and dehumanize. It wants to manipulate with lies and deception.
Mm-hmm. So this covenant we're talking about, is there a basis for this word? It's called bereth. Is there a basis for bereth that we can properly deduce what it means?
Bed,
A home.
Yeah, be'eth, right?
To home. That's where families live.
Yeah, be'eth means family and home, right? Yeah, so the only difference in be'eth and bereth is that bereth adds a rosh. And so it's the thinking man's home. It's the home for the person that's observant, who listens, and who's thoughtful.
Tomorrow.
Yes, that's the rosh and how it's drawn. And of course, even the first letter, the be'eth. What is a be'eth in the original alphabet of Hebrew?
So it's a tent home design of a home.
Right. It's a home. It's a floor plan of a home. How many entrances are there to that home?
Just one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just one. Just one.
But,
So,
And the head of household? Dode.
well, yeah, Dode's going to be the king. Yahowah is our father, and Dode is his beloved son, and he's the boss. He's the king. It's interesting that,
and you delegate.
yeah, that when Yahowah decided upon the covenant, what he decided to do is that he wanted to have sons and daughters that he could communicate with and raise and enjoy as a family. And to be consistent all the way through, he decided, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to work through my sons and daughters. So if somebody becomes covenant and is has the right attitude and aptitude, and the occasion is right, God's going to work through that individual as opposed to working alone. And so that's how you got us. That's how you got Dode. That's how you got Yashaya and Yirmiah and Hosha, and how you got Shamuel, and of course Dode, and how you got Moshe. These are individuals that God chose to work through. And one of the things people don't understand is just how opposed God is to religion, because it's counter to the relationship he wants to establish with us. And all you have to do is recognize that God presented what he viewed as the ideal environment and relationship. And where did he do that? Where can we view what God would view as the ideal relationship?
With Dode.
Gone
That was a good one. That was a good
Gone
one.
Den.
Yeah, Gan Eden. Correct. And in Gan Eden, so let's just be clear. So what was the religion of Gan Eden?
Let's get naked.
Get naked and have fun, huh? Yeah. Okay. Well,
That was work.
that works for me. Even more so when my wife says it. We'll be ending this show now. I don't know if it's time.
Oh, the sensor's good.
It's time.
Cut it off, Rich. We're going.
Creating now.
It works for me. Life is better the way that Yahowah designed it with men and women. I am a much happier, much more fulfilled, satisfied fella around my wife than I would be without her.
Yeah, it's the lamb roast.
Yeah, but lamb roast is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, it's not the lamb roast. So, I'm trying to keep it. I am trying to keep a PG
Moving
show.
on.
I am trying to keep a PG show here. So, in Eden, we know for certain that there was no religion.
Nope.
Okay, what was the political party?
Not a
None.
single one.
No Likud?
No.
No.
I think it was just that we
No,
love.
no MAGAs? No
No.
MAGAs?
No, it was the
No,
We
no.
Love Yahowah
No,
party.
We were
Okay.
unorganized and
So
undeclared.
no religion and no politics. Certainly there was a police force, a military, and a judicial system, right?
No need. No
No.
need.
Well, so were there any laws?
No, sir.
No.
No. A couple of instructions. Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, there are two instructions. Instruction one is you can eat from any tree you want to.
Mhm.
Any tree you want to, including these two trees here, the trees of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. You can eat from any tree.
Mhm.
You just need to know
You
that
are
there's a
what you eat.
consequence of eating from that tree right there.
You are what you eat.
That you eat that tree, and you're going to find that not everything is peaches and cream. So I have to be real careful about the tree of knowledge and good and evil, because the whole purpose of being named Yada and being one of the two trees that's on either side of the menorah as one of the final witnesses, and being called a choder, which is a branch, is that the role that I'm playing is that I am a resource from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and understand that once that we were exposed to that, the Torah and the prophets actually have more of an emphasis on evil than they do on good, because you're not in a position to appreciate good until you understand what is wrong and disavow it. And so, big part of this job is to serve as a source of the knowledge of good and evil. And then you've got Dode, who represent the tree of life. But Yahowah didn't say you can't eat from them, did he?
No.
He didn't say there's a rule that here, this is the law. The law of the tree is you shall not eat from that tree. He didn't even say that.
No.
He just said you can eat from every tree you want. Yeah, I understand, but this tree, if you eat from it, that you're going to die. You're not going to live forever if you eat from that tree. and that's a consequence. And so the heck of a lesson there, isn't there?
Mhm.
Is that God gave us free will. He said you could do whatever you want. There's only one instruction, really. You can eat from everything you want. Just know from that tree right there, this consequence. Pretty darn simple. So no commandments, no laws, nothing to obey, but there was instruction. What is the thing that is the highlight, really, of the time in the garden? What thing happened in the garden? There's two, actually, highlights in the garden where you'd say, wow, that was a special moment. What are the two?
Naming the animals.
Naming the animals. That's right. It wasn't just naming the animals. It was coming to know the animals, which
Interacting,
means
yeah.
they were actually communicating with them. They were trying to determine which of these animals could relate to Adam well so that he could enjoy that animal's company. So it was really, and it was experiencing the animals, and then based upon the quality of that experience, naming them.
Right.
Yep, to describing what they were. So you're right. That is one of the two. What is the other?
Walking with
Same.
Yahweh.
No.
Part
What's the
C,
second?
Yahowah.
Pardon?
Part C, Yahowah.
Absolutely. What did Adam say?
Whoa,
Yowza!
man.
Wow.
That is the greatest thing I've
Come
ever
on.
seen. Oh my God, that is
Bone of my bone, flesh of my
Woo,
flesh.
man. I am happy. I am happy. Yeah, that
Craig,
was
yeah.
yeah. That was one of the ways you know that being naked and men and women being together. By the way, did they have a marriage ceremony?
No,
No.
No. Was there any like rings or
no,
your
no.
pronouncements before God or
No
to
wedding
death to-
dress, no flowers, no
For-
planner, no priest, no,
yeah,
none
was
of
there
it.
any
No ceremony.
forsaking all others till death do you part?
No.
No.
Nope. There was
No.
none of that. No. Here she is.
Here's your woman.
Here's your woman.
Yes,
And
you won't.
what was her purpose?
To help.
She had a stated purpose and an unstated purpose.
To be an assistant, a
Helpmate.
helper.
A helpmate, yeah, somebody, because there was work to be done,
Mhm.
and they were going to work together.
Mhm.
Yahweh was very clear that in the garden we're going to work together, because if you were just an entitlement kid, you know, yeah, you're
A nepo baby.
You're a
Nepo baby.
yeah, you're a parasite on society. You're expecting that well, those people that have been productive and make money, they're really horrible people. And so the fair thing to do is for us to take their money, so we don't have to work at all. And we're entitled to an education. We're entitled to health care. We're entitled to a living wage. We're entitled to all this, even though we don't do squat for it, because we're just going to take it from the people that were productive. Is Yahweh an advocate of that system?
No.
No. What did he say we're going to do together? We're going to work. And what was Adam's relationship, or Yahweh's relationship with Adam?
To help him.
Yeah, to
Code.
help. Yeah, she was going to make a contribution to his life. She was going to make his life better and more productive.
So Yahweh picked Adam, and he walked with Adam and said to Adam, "It's not good for you to be alone."
Now,
So
why
here
did he
you
say
go.
that? Why did he say that?
Because Yahweh doesn't want to be alone either.
Well, part of it, but the biggest issue is Yahweh created man, the first man, with a conscience, with both a nephesh and a nesama, for companionship. We were created for companionship, which means we are receptive to and we thrive with companionship. So solitary confinement for us is torture. Okay, so if Adam's choice was to be with Yahweh or to be tormented and tortured, then he's really not making a choice to be with Yahweh. And if you're not making a choice to be with someone, then you cannot express love.
Or free will.
That's just like there is no marriage ceremony between Adam and Chava. Leah and I have gone into our relationship just to say, why you enjoy being with me and I enjoy being with you, we're going to be together. If for any reason you decide you don't want to be with me or vice versa, then you are free to go. I wouldn't be happy about it, but you're free to go, and vice versa. You have to be in a situation where you can choose to be with the person because you want to be with them, and that's what Yahweh wanted. He wanted Adam to be able to choose to be with him, not be forced to be with him, because to be separated would be torture.
Mhm.
And so that's the reason that Towrah was given. But of course, there's another reason, and that is Yahweh loved the man. And if you can give the man something that is Yowza, that's the best thing ever. Then you've made your companion, in this case, they had a father-son relationship. You made your son happy. And so those are all the reasons. Yeah, all the reasons for that. And
Just one more.
what's that?
To have children.
Yeah, to conceive a larger family. I think that Yahweh would have been content with just Adam in a relationship, and I think that, but you just can't do it with one because of the things we've just talked about, and the moment that Towrah, there's such a way we can learn from Towrah, but one of the things is, first, her name was not Eve. Somehow religious people feel that they have the right to change God's name, and the names God chose, but God did not choose the name Eve. He chose the name Towrah. And then there's every place you look, and you look up Towrah, they'll say it means life giver or life, but Towrah is with a wah in the middle of it, does not mean life giver or life.
She who speaks her mind.
Yeah, Chayah, Chayam means life and life giver. It's not written that way. It's written in Towrah. And Towrah is based upon a very important verb in Hebrew. And it means to express one's opinion. It means to state one's case, to make a declaration about what you want. And Towrah did.
Oh, women in general do.
Yeah, she said, I want to be like God. Yeah. And I want to speak for God. And I want to be able to change what God had to say. And there's so much that we learn when we get our name right. And then there's so much to learn as to when Hasatan, as the serpent, came into the garden, and he was a cherubim would be the plural. Was he allowed to corrupt and misrepresent the word of God?
Yes.
So does God allow us as his creation to pervert and corrupt his word?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Free will is free will.
All over the place.
Free will is free will. And so that is the ploy that Hasatan used, was he corrupted the word of God. Second of all, when Hasatan corrupted the word of God, did he come up with an entirely different scheme where he said, that tree right there, that's an alien. An alien dropped that tree there.
No.
And if you have a bite of that, you're going to find the golden spaceship, and it's going to take you to Mars.
Well, where you meet Elon.
And Elon Musk will be waiting for you there.
Yeah.
They didn't do it like that, did he? No. What he did is he changed one word in what God said to give the impression being the opposite of what God said. And what he inferred is that God doesn't want you to eat from that tree, because if you eat from that tree, you will know good and evil, and you'll be like God yourself.
And Chaba was like, yes.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, I'm going for that. So all he did was he misquoted one word of the prior statement, and then he made an inference from a miscitation. So she had tremendous credibility, because God said almost everything that Hasatan said. Mm-hmm. So it's almost the same, but by changing a word, it gives the opposite impression. And then he made a faulty deduction, applying a motive to God that was untrue, but still keeping with the script of saying the knowledge of good and evil there. Mm-hmm. So when Paul wrote the Christian New Testament, the first 14 letters of it, and then inspired Mark and Luke and Acts, he did exactly the same thing, didn't he?
Yes, indeed.
Pluck something that God said out of context to give him credibility, change some of the words, and then imply the opposite meaning to it that God intended. And that is the entirety of Christianity. The entirety of the Talmud is the entirety of the Quran. Satan's a one-trick pony. That's all. That's his trick. Is that he knows that if he comes out and says, "Yeah, I'm Satan. I'm the competition. That's what I'm called. The adversary. Hasatan means I'm the adversary. That's who I am.
It's me.
Yeah, and so it's you can choose me or you can choose that Yahowah fellow. That's your choice." No, what he did is he positioned himself as the Lord. He attacked the Satan title that he so despises and presented himself as if he were God. And he does it by taking the testimony of God and misrepresenting it. And so all of the same themes, if you read the Quran, all the same themes are there. The New Testament, the same themes are there. The Talmud, the same themes are there. They're just all twisted and misrepresented. And the God becomes Hasatan as a result. And it's the exact same ploy that we found in Gan Eden. So there's so much we can learn about it. While we're talking about this too, we're just kind of having fun, just kind of walking through some of the joy of learning about Yahweh and his Torah. Does God infer that Adam and Chawah 6,000 years ago were the first humans?
No.
No, not at all.
In fact, he actually says exactly the opposite, doesn't he?
Yep.
Yes, it does.
He says they were in that garden, that protective enclosure, which he locates, by the way. It's where Lake Van is now in eastern Turkey. And he says that the walls are to keep all of the other vicious animals, including humans, out. And the moment that he let them out, they had to wear a sign, which means that those outside had already begun to read, and the sign says, you harm these people at your peril. Don't do that. And so there were human communities all around which would have been the area around the Black Sea. They're all around there, and God's very clear that they existed. By the way, we're just kind of having fun with what you can learn. Did God said there was a giant? Did he say there were giants in the land?
No.
No.
He called them Nephilim, right?
Yes.
And what is the verb nephal, which is the basis of it? You know what it means?
To fall.
Yeah, to fall, to prostrate yourself, to be religious, if you will.
To put your faith
fallen
in
man.
the sand like Muslims do.
Yeah. And he described them, and he says, what was the problem of these people who were prostrating themselves religiously and representing fallen man? What was their problem? They were Hamas.
Yep.
That's what he said. They were Hamas. They were ruthless terrorists. And so when God initiated the flood, and we're just kind of having fun with the whole kind of the thrill of understanding God's story as he revealed it, and not just going to the point some of these things, but you actually understand them, because there's so much power in these stories. When God said that he was going to initiate the flood, and it was because of fallen man and the fact that they were terrorists, and he regretted creating people that were acting like today's Muslims, right? Even using their designation, Hamas. Tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor.
Either that or we've come full circle.
Did he say that he was going to flood the entire planet?
No.
He has a word for planet, doesn't he?
A region.
The word for planet.
Terabel?
Tabel is the word for planet. Yeah, and the word for land, as in a region or place, is Eretz. What did he flood? Did he flood the Tabel or the Eretz?
Eretz.
Region.
Yeah,
yes.
he flooded the region, and he explains at the end that he flooded the region where humans with a Nasalma were. What is the Nasalma? Where did the Nasalma come from?
Adam and Chawah.
Yeah, Adam and Chawah were the humans with the Nasalma. So anyone that they conceived, then would mate with someone else, they would pass on the nasama. The difference between a nasama and a nephesh is that every animal, right down to the garden slug, has a nephesh. It is what differentiates animals from plants, according to God. A nephesh is consciousness. It enables us to see, to observe, and then respond to our environment, which is different than plants. But with Adam, he gave Adam something different, something additional, because Adam does have a nephesh soul. Even Yahweh has a nephesh soul. But he gave Adam a nasama, which is conscious, not just consciousness, but an actual conscience. And consciousness is this ability to perceive and observe your environment and respond to it. And a conscience is this human capacity to be judgmental, to be discerning, to differentiate right from wrong, good from bad, productive from counterproductive. It's the thing that almost doesn't exist anymore. So it is very possible for humans not to have one, because most humans don't appear to have one anymore. But this nasama gave enormous benefit to the humans living outside of the garden. And if they could produce through a woman, or have a woman as a man that had a nasama, then the kids would have a nasama, and they would have somebody that was enormously more helpful. And they didn't use it for good, they used it for bad. And they became Hamas, terrorists. So God said, I grieve this, and he flooded the region. Did he tell us how he initiated the flood?
Yes.
What was that?
The Berkeley impact crater.
Yeah, he doesn't mention the
Vast
vertical crater.
No.
upwelling of seawater.
That's
Yeah,
what he
just
says.
some
A
different
vast
airfalls.
upwelling of seawater. And what how he caused that upwelling of seawater, it was the Berkeley impact crater, where an asteroid meteorite struck, which not too far from the mouth of the Tigris-Euphrates River. There's now, it would have been a 500-foot tsunami. It went through that entire area. We see all the sediment that it left, went all the way up to the Black Sea, which at the time was freshwater and had many, many human civilizations around it. It buried them under 500 feet of water, transferred the Black Sea from freshwater at that moment to saltwater, and went out through the Bosphorus Straits. All the evidence for it right at the perfect time, in the way that God said, with the deep upwelling of seawater. And when you have that kind of an impact on the earth and that much debris that comes into the air, it comes down as precipitation. And so there was the rain for the 40 days and 40 nights on top of this enormous upwelling of seawater. And so he said that's exactly what's going to occur. And we find out that is exactly what
happened.
What occurred.
Fun fact, I love diving, and I still keep up with diver news. And off the coast there, they've now found their fifth ancient settlement over 10,000 years, because it's there's a lot of drought happening.
Yeah, what was found in the Black Sea. And it was Ballard that did the research there, the guy that found the Titanic. And they dove deep. He had to, you had to go 500 feet below the surface of the Black Sea currently to locate them, because that's how it was. That's how deep the floodwaters came through. And he did the testing, was able to determine that indeed 4,500, 5,000 years ago, the waters in the Black Sea turned from freshwater to saltwater. You can tell by the kind of mussels and crustaceans and all that sort of thing that are there. And then he found the civilizations, and they're really large cities buried 500 feet under the waters of the Black Sea, exactly as God said there would be.
Completely intact.
Yeah, completely intact, because it's so deep and so cold down there and so dark. And the combination of that and the Berkeley impact crater, and God said it's going to happen from a deep upwelling of seawater. Pretty extraordinary. And one of the things that we do in the volume 1 of the Yada Yahowah series is we take what the Wilkinson probe found. The Wilkinson probe found that time from the Big Bang, which is the term that Yahweh uses, found that that time was stretched to 10 to the 12th power. And what that means is that what Einstein determined is that time is relative to the observer. If you're in the presence of great velocity or great energy or matter, time slows. And so what was determined is that by the Wilkinson probe is that we have the echo, the residue of the Big Bang. And the reason we can hear it from everywhere is now we know that there were Big Bang, simultaneous Big Bangs everywhere. And that's why the residual echo from it is so prevalent. And what we find is that wavelength was stretched 10 to the 12th power. Now, the reason that's important is that we know the universe now is not the 13.8 billion years that we thought, because we have galaxies that are that we can observe now because of the James Webb Telescope that are out just past 14 and a half billion light years out. So that we know the universe now is closer to 15 billion years old, which I've always thought, because the time was really measured anyway based upon quark confinement. I think they use the wrong term for quark confinement because time doesn't actually flow when without matter, without energy cooling to coalesce as matter. Energy and matter are the same things; they're just different amounts of the same thing. Time doesn't move, and so for you to have a reference for time, you have to have matter, and quark confinement determines when you have matter. And so I was always of the conclusion and wrote about it that the universe is probably closer to 15 billion years old. And now we're finding galaxies that are 14.5 billion years, light years away. And so that timing is correct. And so if you were to divide 15 billion years by 10 to the 12th power, which is the amount the time was slowed in the presence of creation, which we know was everywhere. It wasn't one spot. It was everywhere simultaneously. What is the result of 15 billion years divided by 10 to the 12th power?
6 days.
Yeah, 6 24-hour days is correct. And so 6 24-hour days and 15 billion years are exactly the same amount of time based upon where the story is being told. And God told the creation story from the place of creation, which means that 6 24-hour days is exactly 15 billion years from our perspective on this planet looking back.
Oh, tell me something.
Sure.
Why would anyone not want to read these books?
Yeah, it's just filled with all of these.
I mean,
these
come
are,
on. I mean,
they're not only interesting insights and interesting proofs, but this is, I mean, like some of the stuff on Yahowah, for example, as I went through her personality and I analyzed her personality and I analyzed Adam's failures. And I actually blame most of what happened on Adam, not on Yahowah. But Yahowah did have a bad attitude. But I'll go through, it's this brilliant, I think, assessment of all of the dynamics that were in existence in Eden. And as a reader, you would think that, wow, what a marvelous way to spend a day to go back into Eden and know what that was like.
yeah,
And then
15 years.
I'm the first, and then I'm like the first person to ever say, oh, by the way, the reason that you're told all of this wonderful stuff about Eden is you're going back to it.
Right.
The whole purpose. And now just 99 months from now, on Sukkah, on a Shabat of Sukkah would be October 7th of 2033, we're being allowed back into the garden. The entire earth is going to be recast in the Garden of Eden. And so we're going back to that exact environment. And so we now know what we're going back to. If you like the story of Eden, you're like,
You don't like it.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to enjoy my little Eden moment here just as soon as I can say goodbye to you guys. So
I think I can answer his question a little better.
I didn't know there was a
Okay.
question.
Why wouldn't anyone want to read these books? I think there was.
Yes.
You were saying something?
Yes.
No, I asked about
so
the book. Why wouldn't you?
why wouldn't anyone want to read
Oh,
these
okay.
books?
Okay.
And I can
Okay.
tell you from a purely Jewish perspective
Okay.
what I think. When you walk around thinking that you're chosen and a know-it-all,
Mm-hmm.
what's there to seek?
Mm-hmm.
Alice. Presumptuous, yeah. Wow.
It's presumptuous and insolent because they do have it all wrong. However, if you point it out, they dig in deeper, and it's entirely frustrating. I
That
love
should be-
my people, but they're a handful. Really, they're absolutely a handful.
Not all of them.
No, not all.
Nope. There's some marvelous people in there. I just look and you just, okay, I'm a little starry-eyed, and I am definitely prejudiced. Leah is an acquired taste, and I've definitely acquired that taste. But you look at a woman, and I see her as exceedingly beautiful. So when I look at Leah, she's just absolutely gorgeous. She got a wonderful mind, and she's physically and mentally beautiful with a spectacular attitude. And you say, all right, so Yahweh created her to be that way. So what does it tell you about Yahweh?
He's pretty
Appreciate
cool.
beauty.
Yeah, appreciates beauty, appreciates love, appreciates, one of the things that makes a good relationship is, being vulnerable. And having that vulnerability cherished by the other person. Knowing that you can be yourself around that person, and that they want to lift you up and to make your life more enjoyable. And so, the best kind of relationship we can have with another person is that relationship that a man and a woman have, that fall in love with each other and work with Yahweh to achieve something. And we also know that by comparison, and she can attest to this, and I can attest to this, the worst thing in life is to be married to a person with a rotten attitude.
Contentious.
Who-
Yahweh says it's better to live on your roof than with a contentious woman, and I have to agree.
Whoa. And Kirk, you've had some experience with this. And I think even Rich has had some experience with this, so that we don't want to embarrass Rich too much. But I know I've had some experience with this.
Oh, me too.
And it is miserable. So a bad relationship is really miserable, and a good relationship is the best part of life. There's nothing in life that is better than a wonderful, loving, and supporting relationship. And in that, we understand exactly Yahweh's frustration with his people when they're religious and obnoxious towards him, and why he is just so enthralled when he meets somebody along the way, like Dode, and like his covenant family today, that cherish him, that love him, that want to celebrate life with him. The good is so good,
He's thrilled.
it has God say, I'm gonna put up with all that negative stuff just because the good is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think every single child of the covenant that enters into Yahweh's home makes him smile. It just makes him filled with joy.
Mm-hmm.
He has been alone for a really long time.
Look how content Wookiee is in Leia's lap. And that's kind of the way that I feel in Yahweh's lap. You're content to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You can just say, all right, life is good. And this is the way that Yahweh wants us to approach him, is to feel comfortable in his lap, to know that he's there with hugs. And you don't see Wookiee right there bowing down and trying to pray to Leia. No, he's just enjoying the moment and enjoying the relationship. And very simple, but that's really what God is trying to model with us. So we've reached our 2-hour point of family hour, as we typically do.
We've tilted.
I do
We're
feel
over.
a little fresh, more revived than I did the last time. We were going to do a third show, a midday show today, and Leia just came down and said, the wife says, no, you're not. You're just going to do the 3.5 hours between these programs, and so chill, translate, do something you like that's fun.
Right.
but you're not going to do that.
Too much on your voice.
Fantastic
Yes.
idea.
Yes, it's worked out just fine. Yeah, it makes a little less work for sure. Shorts there.
Just call him shorts now.
We just call them shorts. But we do have fun. We hope that you've enjoyed this with us. We have done an entire show really where the entire program was just enjoying one another's company and talking about our favorite subject. Our favorite subject is YAHOWAH. Our second favorite subject is David. Our third favorite subject is the covenant family that YAHOWAH has offered us. And our next favorite subject is what can we do to get more people so that they join us and appreciate and enjoy this relationship with YAHOWAH. You have nothing to lose that has any value whatsoever, and everything to gain: eternal life, enrichment, empowerment, perfection, and adoption into God's family. So you inherit all that is His, which happens to be a pretty sizable universe. You know, you think that a king has a big estate. Well, ain't nothing compared to a universe of trillions upon trillions of galaxies, all with hundreds of billions of stars. It's just so enormous. It's even hard to fathom, and so many exciting things out there for us to explore and to enjoy. Plus, just the simple pleasures of being with YAHOWAH and having lovely songs and wonderful meals and shared discoveries. Can you imagine the first time that you see a rainbow, maybe dazzling lights in a waterfall, smell the wind through a pine forest, walking barefoot along maybe the surf in a warm sea on soft sand, and you've got your favorite person along your side, and on the other side is the creator of the universe, and says, "Pretty neat, huh?
Pretty neat, huh?
Pretty neat, huh? What do you think about this, kid?"
Oh, yeah. Pretty impressive.
We did good together, didn't we, kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's that casual, that cool, that approachable, that easy to be around. The real God is just nothing like the religious gods.
Who's a curmudgeon?
Yeah, he's really approachable, lovable, humorous, loves to share credit, and prefers not to have to blame. In fact, with his children, there is no blame.
Yeah.
And lots
Thanks,
of
Doe.
shared credit. Yeah, thanks, Dote. You did it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been a really fun show. We might even get Rich out of his corner
Little
over
dark
there,
corner.
production corner.
Kind of busy
We're
back
glad, Kevin, that you were able to chime in after a while. We don't know what the challenge was, but we'll get it fixed for next time. Thank you all for participating in the chat room, for listening to this program. We thank you all in Israel who stayed up late this evening to be part of this program, and know that there is a happily ever after. There is an opportunity for you to do better than what you're currently doing, and there is hope.
And know
for
that
you.
Yahweh loves you.
He
We
does.
love you.
We
Just
do.
come back.
Yeah, but come
Just
back.
come back.
Yes, but come back. Shub for Shub, or no Shub for you.
That's right.
Good night. Happy
Good night,
Shabbat.
y'all.
Shabbat
to one and all.
shalom.
Watch along.
Thanks, everybody.